Hey everyone, and welcome to the Beyond Life and Fitness podcast. I'm Cheryl Patton.
And I'm Megan Prince.
We started this podcast as a way to connect with more people who are struggling to fit it all in. The workouts, the food, kids, work, and relationships.
We know that we're not perfect, but we hope that through our struggles and our mistakes and our failures and our successes that we can help more people through their challenges and be successful. So if you want some tips and tricks to help you along your journey to be the best version of yourself, then this is it.
All right, and welcome back to another podcast. And today's topic is a little bit of a spin-off from the last podcast that we did. In the sense that, so last podcast we talked about how vacations are super important not only for your overall health, but your relationships as well. And today, it's little changes that moms can make that can make a huge change for their health and their fitness.
So I think as I've been going through the last couple weeks, couple months, anxiety's been high, homeschooling kids, all that kind of stuff, that I've realized in talking to so many moms that we're burnt out. Moms are burnt out. They feel like they have no time. They're not enjoying their kids. They're like, when do I even have time for myself? When do I have time for self-care? And I'm like, yeah, what is self-care, right? Self-care to me becomes things like washing my hair, shaving under my arms because it doesn't get down to the legs because you don't have enough time for that. But little things, right? Little tiny things now become our self-care. They're not like these big things where it was like, I could go before and have a massage, and I could go and get my hair done for 3 hours, and I could go get my nails done. Those were things that I enjoyed doing before I had kids. And now those things are like, I don't have there's no way I could put 3 hours aside. You could, but there's so many other things that would be behind because of that, because we're so tapped out and burnt out. So I think, talking about those little tiny things that we can do to help women avoid burnout, but then also be able to have their mental health and wellness.
Still be able to think of themselves as healthy and fit, right? And it's not always, doing these big, massive changes. And sometimes when you kind of go balls to the walls, right, you can overwhelm. Now, for some people's personalities, it works totally fine. But I find for the majority of the people, not so much, right? They'll kind of go 100%. They go from a walk into a full-on sprint, and then they feel overwhelmed. They feel like they can't keep up with the pace that they have set themselves with. And so what's the easiest thing to do? Quit, right? And so, I think it's finding little ways and not necessarily, and again, depending on the stage of motherhood that you're in, you're right. Sometimes taking an hour for that massage every 4 to 6 weeks, or, getting your hair done every 8 to 12 weeks, or whatever the case might be, or taking the time to get your, a pedicure done or something, is just not a reality. It doesn't mean that it never will be. It's just not right now. So what can you do right now? What little steps, little changes can you make that's going to just keep moving that needle forward? So that you feel like you're still moving in the right direction. It may not be at the pace that you want, but that's fine. We all go through times where we feel like we're killing it, and then we go through times where it's like, oh my gosh, I'm on my hands and knees and I am literally crawling inch by inch. And that's reality.
And I think, it comes to this stage of where we're in, and talking to you, because your kids are older, talking to my other friend today on the phone. She's like, oh yeah, I remember those days. I remember when I was cleaning people's houses and doing things and all this stuff, because that's the stage I was in. And I'm like, oh my God, really? So eventually I'll be able to get back to these things that I'm super passionate about that I want to do because I'll have more time. Now it's really this essential need to survive and to be here for my kids and just to be able to pay bills. And no, I don't hate what I do, obviously, but being in those different stages of life is so crucial. And people just keep saying to me things like, oh yeah, this is just how it is right now. This is just, that's just the stage of life you're in. And I get that a little bit, But I also say I got to put a stop to that, because I can't just let myself go. I can't just let all of these things that I've worked so hard for go. And also, what am I showing my kids when I'm just doing every single thing for them, like every single tiny thing. So
it's that victim mentality that you can get yourself into and start going down that victim mentality rabbit hole. Like, poor me, my life sucks because of A, B, C, and D, and I can't change it. There's always something that's within your control to change. You just have to find and figure out what it is, and then make that little tweak. Does it mean that rather than taking the easy route of getting takeout for dinner, that you make 1 or 2 homemade meals a week? Start with there.
Right, and that's it, right?
And then make a big enough meal that you've got some leftovers for lunches for the kids, lunches for yourself. Maybe you'll get 2 dinners out of it. Little thing, whether it's taking the time to, the kids are going to bike and you're going to walk or run beside them. And then that is your exercise for the day. It's finding it, figuring out what it is, and then doing it. Just making it happen.
It's like scheduling it into your day. And I schedule my whole week based on, and I know at the beginning of the week exactly when I'm getting my workouts in for the entire week. I've always scheduled that in. I've always just know, because that's important to me. And that's not something, but then there's other things in my life that, like, I'll just be like, oh, I'm going to do that this week. And then I just don't do it because then, like, other things take over. So yeah, it's like, what's that priority for you? What's that, what's your priority? And I think making little tiny changes, I mean, what we want to do is we want to be negative, and we want to blame everything on the universe and the world, and we want to blame just the universe because it's easier, and we don't want to take any accountability for the fact that we just didn't do things. So, and I'm like to blame too when it's like, oh my God, things are just so stressful. It's too much. There's too many things going on. And I'm like, but I stop and think, oh my God, you're the one that makes your schedule. Yeah. Like, it's like
you're creating your own. You're creating your own
chaos.
You're creating your own chaotic environment.
And so I'm like, what the heck am I doing? So I've been in this not negative spin, but this anxiety sort of spin for a while. And I wake up every morning, and I was watching a podcast yesterday about how people wake up in the morning and they think about all the things that are going wrong and all the things that are negative and all the things they did the day before that weren't good and that they need to fix and all their problems. That's what you start to think about right when you wake up. And he's like, if you just change that mindset and start thinking about, what can I change? What things am I able to control? What things, like, I'm the one making my life. I get to choose it. Yes, you do have to make hard decisions, and sometimes things that you don't want to do, quit a job, or, I don't know, leave your partner, or have a little bit less time with your kids so that when you're with them, you feel more recharged, right? So little tiny things like that. But I've been really changing my mindset in the morning to be like, and he also said you have like 70,000 thoughts a day or something.
Wow.
And like, usually only 5% of them are new thoughts, and the rest of them are thoughts that you had the day before. So if you're continuing taking those 65,000 thoughts and carrying into the next day,
it's your baggage.
You're just dragging it along with you. And it's like, I don't want to work this job. I don't want to do this. I don't want to be this busy. But then every single day we keep doing those habits. So it's like, it's even like with me, with the kids, they started boxing and they were going 2 times a week. And then they're like, oh, well, we want them to fight and we want them to be competitive and we want them to do this. And they're like, okay. And then we just get into that again. Whereas we were in competitive gymnastics and then we got out of it because it wasn't good. And then we get somewhere else and we're like, oh, okay, we're back in that because their dad was competitive in hockey. I was competitive gymnastics. So we're just like, oh, that's just how you go. But then every single time it's like you have to pull back the reins and be like, no, because we're going to the same thing that we did before. We're going to the same life that we lived before, and it wasn't working. So why do we keep going back? So it's each time it's like you take 1 step forward, 2 steps back, 1 step forward, 2 steps back. And I've realized when I start training people now that are like, I'm not training at all, I'm not doing anything. Like, I would always be like, okay, well, we'll start you 4 or 5 times a week and it'll be really great and blah, 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 and all this stuff. And now I'm like, you know what I want you to do? Like 2 times a week, I just want you to make it to the gym for half an hour. That's it. Let's just do 2 times a week, because then you see those people come in crazy, like full on, and then 2 weeks later, it's too overwhelming. Like you can't maintain that, right? So it's like when you and me are competing, if we started our competition diets doing an hour of cardio a day, by the time we got to our competition, like we'd be having to add, because we're already doing an hour a day. So what if you start off like
20
really
minutes.
small? Like for me, I'm like, okay, I have to start meditating at nighttime because I need to really calm my mind. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't. But then I was like, what if I just start with like literally 5 minutes and then 6 minutes and then 7.
Yep.
But I'm a balls to the wall girl. I'm like, nope, I'm meditating. I'm doing this for an hour a day. I'm doing this every day. And then it's too many things to maintain, right? 10,000 steps a day, 4 liters of water, meditate for 20 minutes, get your gym. And then I'm like, oh
Your
my God.
to-do list just keeps adding and adding and adding and adding. And
Yes.
then where does it end? Where does it stop? And and again, that's why we see people just quit.
Yeah. And I feel like the burnout's real, right? So I've really trying to set my intentions on why when I'm with my kids all day is it never enough? Do you know what I mean? Like, why can't I go to the gym for an hour and not feel guilty about it? It's because in the times that I'm with my kids, I'm not fully present. So it's like, what if I spent 30 minutes a day with each child where I'm fully present, and then I can do my life and do my day? But it's like you're trying to catch these moments and spending time with them all day, but it's not real time. So that's what I intentionally am trying to do, is just what can I do with each child, even if it's 15 minutes, even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's just grab them and ask them, like, what's bothering you today, or what would you want to do today? That's like a huge one for me, for sure. And trying to figure out where to fit in like time for myself, right? So instead of doing dishes or baking or things that I like to do, I'm like, okay, Meg, just stop, go read for 15 minutes. And like I have to make myself. So anybody that knows me, like watching movies, reading, sitting in general for me is hard. So I have to really be intentional about, I have the opposite, like if I could go to the gym every single day. Today I took a rest day and I'm having a really hard time. Like all I want to do is get up and be like, hey guys, I'm just going to go do 20 minutes of cardio. I'll be back. I'll just do a 20-minute hair workout. I'll be back. And I'm like, oh my gosh. I have to, like, that for me is like somebody going to the gym is that I actually have to not go. And that's very challenging, right? So it's like you have to fight. If you want something different, you have to do something different.
You do.
Or else, and you're fighting against what your daily habits and what your comfortable zone is.
100%.
Every day.
And it has to be just one thing.
Yeah, you can't do.
You can't all of a sudden want to change 5 things at once, because then again, it's going to seem too overwhelming, and you're just going to just fall back into the old habits that you're trying to change. So picking one thing, whether it is, getting out for a 10-15 minute walk 2, 3, 4 times a week, whatever the case might be, getting to the gym twice a week for half an hour, taking some time to quiet the mind through meditation or reading or whatever the case might be for you, or blocking off an hour for a massage every 5 weeks.
If it's but then know it's coming. But you have that time.
Exactly.
You're like, okay, I got this. I can do this. But it's some of those little things for moms aren't really like manageable. But then I also have friends that are caught up on all of their things on Netflix, right? On their shows.
Oh,
which,
for sure.
Yeah, that's the way that they calm down too. But then they're saying, I don't get time to go to the gym, or I don't get time to meal prep.
It's where it's like, you place
your energy,
value on your time.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. And so, again, a podcast that I was listening on the way to here, especially during the pandemic, in the fitness industry in general, there were a lot of people who just canceled memberships, suspended memberships, whatever the case might be, because that was the first easiest out financially, right? Yeah. They didn't go and downgrade their vehicle. They didn't cut spending on terms of like, maybe you only have Netflix rather than Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Disney Channel, right? Like, you didn't see them cut costs in other places. It was a very easy cut to let fitness go.
Right.
right?
Yeah, and whereas I was like, okay, what gym can I join? And then I found one, and it was $100 a month, and I was like, I don't even care. Like, I didn't even think twice about it.
Yeah.
But there is other things, and that's what you have to realize, is there's other things in people's life, like, that they would spend money for and be like, oh my God, I wouldn't spend $100 on makeup. Do you know
100%.
what I mean? So
Yep.
it's like,
it's where you think the value is.
mm-hmm.
And
Yeah,
some
where's your
people,
value?
for their health, the value is not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
Because they haven't had an injury, they haven't had an illness,
Mm-hmm.
they haven't had something threaten their life, their
Mm-hmm.
health, that's going to affect their way of living, their job, their career, the way that they have their family,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That hasn't happened yet.
Right.
And
Yeah.
then that's when we sometimes get these people, is when those incidences have happened, and now they're like, oh shit. If I had maybe started working out 10-15 years ago, I would have been able to recover faster, or the injury may not have been quite so catastrophic, or whatever the case might be.
No,
Right?
for sure. I think another big one for me is setting boundaries in my life, right? So I had a friend text me today. It's going to be, our kids were supposed to have a sleepover on Friday, and she's like, I think it's just going to be too much for us, and it's just a lot because we have a lot going on. And I was like, oh my God, no problem. When my friends text me now and say that stuff, I'm like, good for you for saying it's too much. Because then when I say it's too much for you, you will understand me too. And then we're on the same page. I'm like, don't even worry about it. Like, it's saying no to things that you want, that you always would say yes to, right? And setting time limits on things. And I mean, that's a big thing for me, is saying no to things, right? When I really want to do them, but I'm like, it's just so much. It's just too much.
Yeah.
Like, we just need to not have something every single night that we have to go to, because I just
100%.
want to have dinner one night a week. So again, I feel like I'm breaking those
Rules to yourself.
yeah, because I was like, you know what I want to do? Sundays, wake up, we go to church, go out for breakfast after with the kids, and then nothing all day. Like, no work, whatever. But then I get in this thing of where sometimes a Sunday is a day where I don't have my kids. And when you're a single mom, that Sunday is
Catch-up
like
day.
my Monday, and I have to work to make money. So it's like, if I see an open day where I don't have my kids, I'm going to schedule work.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, when is that day for myself? So I really have to try to find that balance of, like, I don't know, maybe getting a babysitter for the kids once a week or every 2 weeks, not feel guilty, and just leave for 2 hours and go to the mall. And my 12-year-old is great. She'll babysit, and I could pay her, and just be like, every 2 weeks, mommy's going on a date by herself for 2 hours. But we don't do that stuff because we feel guilty. And
Yeah, you feel guilty, and you don't think that it's necessary.
well, yeah, because we can make it through. Do you know what I mean? Like, last night I told you I didn't have any sleep at all because we had a sick child, and everybody kept coming in and out, in and out, in and out. I would never nap today because I don't see the value in napping today, because I can make it through. I'm not going to die by the end of the day. But that's a terrible way to think, because it's like, but you're going to probably have a headache, and you'd probably be happier if you had a little nap, and your body would probably like you better. But I'm like, but I can make it through. It's fine. And so I think women have had those standards set in society that unless we're like dead or in bed, really, because like I think we talked about it last time, like you have a C-section, literally you're taking care of babies the next day. Like, that's not okay,
A baby
right?
that, depending on the weight of the baby, you're not even supposed to lift.
carry. yeah, like, what am I supposed to do with you? You're just laying there?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I remember when I had my first, and I had a C-section, and she was like 8 pounds, and at the end of the bed, they wouldn't let my husband stay, and at the end of the bed, there was a crank to go up and down. It wasn't even one of those ones that had a button. At St. Joe's, it was a crank.
Yes.
So I had a C-section. I'm laying flat on my back. The baby starts crying in the middle of the night. I can't get up because they say you're supposed to roll on your side, use your arm, not use your abs. And I'm like, how do you do that? I don't even know. So she's screaming. And I'm like, I'm this new mom. I don't even know what's happening. There's nobody to crank my bed up. So I'm thinking, how am I going to get to this baby? And she's still screaming, and I'm stressed out. And I'm like, oh my gosh, she's going to die.
Why did they not have the baby beside you?
She did. The baby was beside me in a crib, but not at, like, they're a little bit higher, right, on the bed. And I still had to roll over, sit up because it was flat, and then grab her, which you're not even really allowed to pick them up. And I just remember, oh my God, like, and then you go home and you're supposed to just go back to, that's what society's taught us, right? Like, if you're not dead, or that's what and my mom made a joke with me because I went into the hospital. I don't remember what I was getting done. And she's like, oh, well, enjoy your time while you're there. I'm like, oh my God. So I have to go to the hospital for like procedures in order to relax. Like, okay, colonoscopy time. You're going to put me out. I'll get 3 hours of sleep or whatever, right? Like, is that really like, right? So we have to be intentional about setting time for ourselves, because we'll do it for everybody else in our family. Even your husband would be like, oh no, you take the night off. You go with your friends. And then here we are. So I think biggest ones are setting boundaries and saying no to things and being okay with it. And those friends will understand if they're real friends. They won't be offended, right?
100%.
They're like, no, it's totally fine.
Yep.
Focus on sleep is a big one, right? Like rest even.
Yeah.
Going against all of your habits that aren't serving you anymore.
And pick at them one at a time.
Oh, yeah, because
I'm sure there's more than one.
I love to bake. Like, I'll bake the kids cookies, and I'll bake the muffins, and I'll bake bars, and I'll do all this stuff. But I waste like 3 hours, and I'm like, I don't have any time to relax. And I'm like, I just baked for 3 hours. Do you know what I mean? So like, I have to come home and be like, no, just sit on the couch and don't move. If I have a friend here, I feel like I'm fine because I can really sit down and be intentional. But if it's just me at home, then I have to fight against. You have to fight against all those habits that you don't want. That aren't serving you, for sure. And then what other ones did we say? Yeah, be intentional with your time with your kids, because then you don't feel guilty when you're not with them, right?
And you can't be with them 24/7. Yeah. It's not healthy for anybody.
No. Like, I even been trying to, like, let's play a game of cards, or let's, like, even if it's just 20 minutes of cards. Yep. And sometimes I'm sitting there, and I've seen TikToks about moms playing Barbies and stuff, and they're like, oh my God, all I'm thinking the whole time is I want to shoot myself because I love you, but I don't want to play Barbies. But sometimes I'm sitting there the whole time playing cards thinking, oh my God, I have so much to do, I can't do this. And then I'm like, no, stop your brain and just enjoy where you are right now. Like,
and it's easier said than done, and it takes time and it takes practice.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I think that takes away the mom guilt a little bit when you feel like you, have that intentional time with them. 100%. And then maybe you can avoid a little bit of burnout and ask for help.
Yep, we're not good for asking for help. Well, I don't know. I've heard both. I've heard women more than men are better at asking for help, but I think it is very individualized on the person. There are definitely some women who don't like to ask for help until it's like the absolute bitter necessity. And those bitter necessities asking for helps don't come out the right way, which I've realized, right? No, because you're usually at your wit's end, right? Yeah, like there's nothing left. So it comes, your tone of voice might not be right, or
it comes out as like passive aggressive, and you're like, seriously, I'm going to divorce you if you do, like, because you have to do the dishwasher. Do you know what I mean? But if it's just something that you could say, you know what, I feel really overwhelmed right now. That's what I'm learning, to really say how I feel, and then ask for what I want. Be like, I just feel really overwhelmed. If you could do this for me, it would be really wonderful, and that would help me a lot. And to say yes to things when people offer them. People have offered, and I'm like, no. And then I come back and I text, and then, actually, you know what? Okay, yes, you want to take my kids for 3 hours? Let's do it. And that's where I'm fighting that habit, to not have to say no every single time and just be like, yes, you can have my kids. It's fine. Like, and they'll actually be better because of it, right?
Exactly.
So I think all those things, I think, would be so helpful to free up more time for you to do 20 minutes of a workout in the morning or whatever, right? Like just fit it in whenever you can, or fit in that time for you so that you don't get burnt out. Because I've now have a scale kind of in my head that when I feel it coming on, I know, and then you just have to pull back on all the things because you're gonna hit this
but at least wall. You know where that tipping point is,
yes,
and you don't let it go right to the far side, and now it's almost too late, and now you're trying to rein yourself back in.
Yeah, I've been there, and I'm like, as soon as I feel like I'm almost getting there again, I'm like, no, go back.
Yep.
Go back, get back here. We don't want to go down that path again. We'll stick to the yellow brick road on this side.
I love it, Yellow Brick Road. Oh,
Yes.
That's awesome. All right, so I think that's quite a bit of information for people to digest.
Yeah.
And pick away at, and hopefully it helps. So
Yeah, we'd love questions, comments, whatever, or any other tips that you guys have that you do so that you don't.
Yeah, absolutely. Just leave them
burnt out.
And just send us comments on what you do to kind of help. Like what tips and tricks you use personally that kind of gets you through the day, the weeks, the months, the years, so that you know or feel healthy and fit mentally, physically, and spiritually. All right. Until next time. Thanks everybody for listening today, and we truly appreciate you. And let us know what your biggest takeaway was today, and if you have any questions you want answered on the podcast. Don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe to this podcast to automatically receive your episodes and to help us reach more listeners. We would love to connect with you on our socials, either Facebook or Instagram, with links in the show notes. Till next time, keep taking those small steps towards your best life.